member for Newtown.
Thank you, Speaker. I rise to make a brief contribution on behalf of the Greens to the Crimes Amendment Intimate Image and Audio Material Bill 2025 and want to acknowledge the Attorney-General and indeed the New South Wales Government for their work on this, and acknowledge that the member for North Shore has also been a strong advocate for the need to see legislative change in relation to this area. I recognise and acknowledge that the contributions that have been made to this debate have articulated in real terms the potential harms and dangers, and I don't intend to go into the explicit and specific details of the kind of harms that can occur. That said, I do think it is really critical for us to recognise that in legislating to increase penalties in relation to intimate images and audio material, and as this bill will seek to do, make it an offence to alter images or audio without a person's consent in a way that makes it intimate, to create intimate images or audio of a simulated person without consent of a real person whom it is meant to represent, or indeed share or threaten to share either of the above, even if the person doing so hasn't created them. That while it is critical that we do that, it is also really important for us to recognise that no law is going to keep pace with the level of the development of artificial intelligence and indeed the kind of technology that we are now seeing that is going to have an impact on people when it comes to the harmony within our society, but also the potential risk and harm to be done to people. And so while I absolutely acknowledge the work of the Attorney-General of jumping on this and changing the law, and indeed people would expect that the Attorney-General would look at this from a changing of the law perspective, it is critical that we recognise that this alone is not going to be enough to provide any protection to the harm that will be done and created as a result of the way that this technology is developed. I recognise the member for Pittwater's contribution just then, talking about the broader issues of bullying and indeed the broader issues of harassment that occur in our society. And I think that if we are to look at this, this is the latest technology, this is the latest tactic that enables and allows people to inflict harm on others as a result of ongoing systemic inequities within our society, a lack of respect for other people, a lack of protection of people from issues of discrimination, of misogyny, of indeed abuse and power plays are the broader issues that are here. And it is this technology that is the latest version of how we are seeing those things play out. And so I think it is really critical that in changing the law, we don't think, oh, we've changed the law now, we've made it an offence to do these things, therefore we've solved the problem, because the reality is that doesn't solve the problem. What we do to solve the problem is recognise that we need to resource the education and support and indeed the long-held calls from people who are very, very alert to the issues of gender-related abuse and violence and harm and bullying, to actually hear their calls to resource those sectors adequately to try and address the systemic issues that are at the core of these. Yes, we need to look at the technology, but the technology alone and looking to create offences around the technology is not enough. The final thing that I'd just like to say in relation to this is I think that it is critical for us to recognise, as indeed other speakers have made, the potential risk to our democracy and indeed to public commentary and public life in relation to this. The reality is that at any point in time now, any of us in this chamber who exist in a public platform are at a risk of having deepfakes being created about what we are doing and what we're saying. Now, the impact for then how we all respond to that, I think, is something that we all need to be alert to. As this technology advances, the chances that one of us will see something that doesn't look like or looks like an extreme version of something that may or may not really have happened and then react and respond to that is something that I think is incumbent on all of us as members of Parliament in this place to make sure that we are not adding fuel to the fire of what could be deepfakes that have been created by jumping on that for a political bonus or a hit or something, especially as we head into next year. and the election. So I just want to acknowledge that this work is important, but make it very, very clear that, as we know from indeed the many reports by the E-Safety Commissioner and others, that it is not enough just to create fences around these issues, but actually we need to commit to ensuring that there is adequate funding and resourcing of those services in the community that will address the risks of gender-based harassment, harm and violence, to ensure that we're addressing those systemic issues. Thank you, Speaker.